Thank you very much. It's a very generous declaration. I only did the magic of finishing up what a whole team of colleagues started working on about 12 years ago. And I will show you how it all went. I'm here to talk about the cost information system. So this is the buzzword that I'm going to use today very much, of the Romanian Order of Architects. This comes from the fact that since 2001, the law for organizing and exercising the profession of architect, the profession of architect in Romania is protected as a title and as a function. So there are certain services that only architects can fulfill. It's stated from the very beginning, since its first adoption in 2001, that there should be some minimum fees, which are to be set up by the Order of Architects, the Romanian Order of Architects, and have to be then approved by the Ministry of Development and the Ministry of Culture. Then in 2004, because most people didn't really know that these existed, or if they knew, they couldn't really uphold these fees because they were correct but not balanced with the market or with the expectations of the market. So most architects did not actually apply those minimum fees. They said, okay, let's have it as a reference fee, it's good enough. Of course, again, set by the order and approved by the two ministries. 2010, just like everywhere in Europe, because of the pressure from the European Commission, Romania acceded to the EU in 2007. The reference word was changed to this cost information system, from which nobody really knew what to expect at that time. The only thing that they knew how to define and write in the law, so these are keywords that are taken from the law, that it has to be public, so it has to be open for everyone. It should contain means to calculate costs and help negotiate fees. It's non-mandatory for anyone, not for architects, not for public procurement, not for private clients, and has to be set up by the order and approved by the two ministries. As I said, this was because of the EU Directive 123 from 2006 on services on the internal market. And the keywords that are also hovering around at that time were it has to be to bring up a just fee in accordance with value, another word we heard a lot of today, and has to take into account the required time and the assumed responsibility, which is also something that we have to take it. So there are all these ingredients that helped us get underway and talk about how to approach this new system that we didn't know how to do. So there was a work group established already in 2010. 1 year later, they published the architect services. They were approved by the Order of Architects. So this was the first component, the first part of the cost information system. 2 years later, we were able to start a market study. So we needed a little bit of time to think how we would approach this. And I will make a short bracket now. It was mentioned at the beginning of the conference also what kind of models. Also, our colleagues from the UK have approached that, and Axel from Switzerland. We have looked into what type of fee establishments we have in Europe, at least, and of course there are several models. Percentage of the investment value, hourly rates, and lump sum are the vast majority, with some characteristics which we realized that most established, very centralized economies and societies like France, Germany, Austria, and so on work predominantly with percentage from the investment value, also because they measure the value of investments all the time. They have the statistics all the time, and they come from authoritative sources. So it's a national federal body that gives the prices of, I don't know, building a school for 10 classrooms in a village every year or every second year or so on. And for that matter, let's say, in other types of professional cultures, like northern countries and so on, hourly rates and lump sum, which go together hand in hand, because if I know my hourly rates and I know how much time I need, I can also give a lump sum because I will not be far off from the truth. They were taking the vast majority of the market. So we said, okay, what to do? Our competition authority gave us the wink. Guys, everything that will be expressed in monetary value is a no-go. So do something that has nothing to do with money. And of course, percentage is something that is very easily, on one hand, to be translated into money, then, even if you just say percentages, but it's percentage of money, so it's easy to translate. And then again, we don't have the measuring of the actual market to see how much it actually costs. So we said, okay, what to do? We go, obviously, for the work time. And this market study helped us also go in that direction. And we started collecting the data on the quantity of work time. And because you mentioned previously a low response rate, the specialist company that we worked with, sociology and other measuring of things like that, company, they came up with the statistical relevant number of responders, which was in that particular case for, at that time, I think it was about 6,000 architects active in Romania. They came up with something like 265 respondents would be a relevant number to be safe, statistically speaking. We had about 370, so we were about 50% almost over that, or 30% over that. So we were quite happy with the first batch. So this enabled us to develop with them. So basically, they developed for us, for the order, this common platform for pre-calculus, which basically helps to reverse engineer the number of hours that you need for a certain project. So by interviewing architects and asking them for these services, for this kind of project, this function and this size and so on, how much work did you put in? They build a statistical model that then gives you the formula, the mathematical, statistical inference, basically. Well, it's basically a formula that approximates the graph of a scatter plot. So all the answers from the architects are on a normal graph with x, y axis, and then they're everywhere. And then you make an approximation with a line that approximates the best, the most, the biggest or the highest number of responses. So you lose the outliers, the extremes, the things which are out of the normal, and then if you have that line, for that line there is a function, and that function is basically the mathematical formula. It's all different in different types of functions, but it works like that. Another component of the cost information system, aside from defining the services, defining the work hours, is also the contract, and we've heard also about that, a few things in today's presentations. The first ones were from 2005, 2006. They needed to be updated. So 2018, we had a full extended version, like 24, 25 pages long, which actually contains over 7 pages in very small print, the full list of services with their description. So our recommendation is that the contract actually contains all the services with the full description. Even if it's in very small print, you have another reference to look it up if you want to. But in your contract with the client, you leave them all in, and they're either part of the contract, and then they're normal written, or they're strike through, and then they're not part of the contract. And we remember in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years' time, that our contract, in the beginning, we decided we don't do those services that are stricken through. So we updated that, we enhanced that with 2 slimmer versions of the contract for 2 other, I will show you then shortly. And let's say the roundup of this system came last year, when we also developed an instrument for the hourly cost for the office. This is done because we think that most of the times, architects, of course, they can name a price for their hour, but most of the time, especially young architects, young offices, newly established on the market, cannot really cover all the angles, all the overheads, all the things that come their way, and the point of the whole system is to help them, of course. This, of course, is an instrument which is dedicated for architects, obviously. So we have the architect services, which is the what are we working, what are we delivering, what are we doing. The contract is the how, and then we have 2 times the how much time, and of course how much money it costs to give 1 hour of our time to work. We managed to get the approval from the Ministry of Development in early October last year, and the approval from the Ministry of Culture in late October last year, which was the celebration moment, of course, for us. And we got it published in the official Gazette of Romania, where basically all the laws are published in early April this year. So now, basically, everyone is informed that this is there. So the system, with its methodology, with its explanation, how it's done, how it's used, and everything that is then on our website. This is the English version of the Romanian Order of Architects website, where you can find the on the top right there, on the very first line, you see the red button. It's SIC for Cost Information System, which of course then begins with an introduction and explanation and the European framework and so on and so forth. All the references that we took, they're mentioned here. We looked into Hawaii, we looked into the RIBA's plan of work, mainly these 2, and of course the HIA from Austria. And of course the European Standard on Engineering Consultancy Services, which is also approved by the European Commission. So we tried to cover all the angles so that we prove to our government that it's bulletproof from every point of view. Then one can find so this is free, accessible for everyone, yeah, it's all transparent. You can find the architectural services. Now it's not so great translation, it's missions called here, because in Romanian it's misiunile arhitectului, which is basically the list of services. It's a brochure that you can download. It was printed already. It's not very much visible here, but I'm trying to read. It's structured into stages, quite similar to the plan of work or other scopes of services that we've seen today. Preliminary, preparatory, concept stage, definitive design, building permit stage, evaluation, offer, project stage, so basically the tendering, so to speak, the tendering deliverables, the design for the construction, for the execution, consulting for the selection of the bidders, of the offers for the construction works, the actual construction monitoring, as in assisting technical assistance during the construction phase, tracking the behavior over time in the use, so going over the life cycle to the end of it, and of course a handful of services which we could not fit in any category, like, I don't know, presentation, videos, or renderings, or models, or whatever. And these are split into 2. You can see in most stages have two splits with standard services and additional services. Basically, if you take the standard services from every stage and put them next to each other, in the end, you end up with a viable product, with a viable building, which is the quality that we wanted to have. If the client wants more, more cost control, more quality, more environmental friendliness, green building, I don't know, not NZEB is standard now, but passive house building, or whatever, stuff like that. Then you can add additional services from the second batch of every stage, or not, of course. And another thing which is also quite important, and I think we should take a little bit of a break. My colleagues are not always very happy when I say this in Romania, but I think the most important thing that we need to tell our clients is that for a good house, for a good building in the end, all the standard services need to be fulfilled by somebody, not necessarily the same architect, but it should be an architect or architectural team, of course. Expandable this framing to, of course, the general planning team, but somebody professional should cover all those standard services, because otherwise the quality will not be there in the end, most likely than not. So, and then coming back to the website, one can go through the explanation about the contract of architectural design and urban planning services. We also fit that in because a lot of times architectural projects are preceded by urban design projects or urban planning services. And well, for better or worse, I can be a little bit condescending. The contract is very long and very not very attractive. But it's not a mandatory contract. It's there to help those who need it. Experienced architects who have gone through problems and difficulties with clients and those kind of experiences will probably not need this type of contract. But the ones, even experienced ones, who have not gone through problems might find it useful to have a look at it, because the contract, and that's why I said it's, I can be a little bit, make a little bit fun of it, because it's basically what I have developed over a lot of time. I have worked for a few years with a lawyer, also on a lecture on regulations and legal framework for architects, which was delivered for professional development purposes. Which ends with the contract and why the contract is so important and so on. So that's why we refined the contract specifically for architects, and there are some fundamental principles also separately explained on the website. So it's not just here, it's the contract, you understand what you want from it. It also needs to be explained both to the architects who want to use it and to the clients who want to understand why this is a good contract. Because one of the main values, I think, main qualities of this contract is that it's balanced. So every time a contract is not balanced, it's shifted towards one party, no matter which one it is. The other one will feel, well, not good in this relationship, and this will lead to friction and to problems. So as long as everybody is happy, I prefer to lose some time and debate and discuss provisions of a 25-page long contract for whatever it takes, days, hours, days, weeks, and then forget about it for the next 2 years during the project, because everything is clear between us. So I think this is also a very, very important thing to take into account. And I will jump over the pre-calculus platform, which I will show you later, but the architect's hourly rate calculator, one can download it from here. Unfortunately, it's only in Romanian for now. It's basically, for now, it's just an Excel table, preset, pre-filled, that you can only fill in the numbers. And you have principal architect, designing architect, and auxiliary personnel from the office, all the overhead things that can occur in Romanian economy. And if you don't have that in your office, you just leave it blank. But then in the end, it gives you the exact cost for 1 hour of work for your office, depending on who is involved in the project. And that is not the price, that is not a fee. That is just the cost of working for 1 hour for a client. So if you bid for 1 cent lower than that, you bring that cent from home. Okay, so everything on top of it is, of course, covering risks and profit. And of course, it has also a very elaborate methodology that explains how it is to be used and so on. There are also workshops to help young architects to get involved and so on. When you go on the pre-calculus platform, it's quite similar to what we have seen today in other situations. I have just screen printed some of the screens that you see there. You have to choose the function, the type of use, individual housing, collective housing, education, health and social, art, culture, sport, and so on. They're basically they're grouped by the complexity of the project, because usually it's quite similar to build a sports arena or a cultural place. As for the complexity regarding, I don't know, fire safety, a lot of people handled, public image of the building and so on, and position in the city and so on and so forth. Sometimes they have different complexity degrees, so they're easy ones, like, I don't know, it's just an annex building, or it's the main building or the main complex. New buildings, existing heritage buildings, interior design for these, or only landscape design around these kind of uses. You can put in the number of levels, overground and underground levels, overground square meters, underground square meters, and then you start ticking the services. So you have first the stages. Maybe you only work for, I don't know, until the building permit phase, and you tick those or not. And then for every stage, you have all the boxes. You can tick what you want or what you don't want. There is one thing which is maybe also important. Most of them have some explanations in brackets as to connect with stages which are named differently and sometimes structured differently in the public procurement law. But because this is a more complex schedule of services, we kept our own system, but indicated for the public procurer, okay, look, if you want to have a public procurement, this is of interest for you. And I will not keep you up with this. I just ticked a few boxes. In the end, the program, the online application, which is, as I said, fully free, accessible, no user, password, nothing, so everyone can use it, gives you a list of your ticked boxes and with the number of hours per stage, and of course the total, which you can also then download as a PDF or as an Excel table to work on it. So it looks like this as a PDF. Or, of course, you can then have it as an Excel table and further develop it. What I would like to also address for a few minutes, I'm about 22 minutes out already, is that once you establish this, the scope of services, and everybody starts to get the hang of it, it took us 10 years to get to this point, but people have started using the services list, the scope of services, the Misiunile Arhitectului since 2011 already. You can also use them to develop other tools, and I will just show you a very brief excerpt of another report that we have done from the let's say from the IT system of the order of the Romanian Order of Architects, which then groups those clusters of functions, of uses, in all the building permits requested over 4 years now, 2018 to 2021, in Romania. So we know about everything that is being built in Romania. This is a database that nobody else has, and we were able to build it up from scratch because we defined our scope of services. And then we started putting in all the data, and we required all architects, when they apply for a building permit, to feed just a handful of data to the system, to the electronic system. And then those data we gathered, crunched them a little bit, cleaned them, of course, from parasites, and then we made this report, which then shows the number of projects for each function, the number of square meters on median, yeah, in a specific year, the value in a specific year, and of course the value per square meter of investment as declared. We still have a problem there with clarity and the righteousness of the declaration. Sometimes they declare less value than it actually is because of taxes. But anyway, and this then allows us to see this based on county, on commune level, on city level. What kind of uses? Orange is individual housing, red, the next bar is collective housing, then we have education, which is very small, and offices and administration, arts, culture, sports, and so on, transportation, production, logistics, agriculture, and these kind of things, and so on and so forth. And you can do all kinds of things, and you can see trends, and you can see where things are different on a large level. This is black and red is the comparison between Europe and Romania. Romania is in red and the European trend is in black. What is for us what was not much of a surprise, but now we have numbers to put in our gut feeling and show it to the government, that while the European average is of 44% of all the construction done in Europe in 2020, new buildings, and 47% refurbishment and 14% heritage buildings, in Romania, it's 77% new buildings, 27% refurbishment, and only 7% on heritage. So basically, what this shows is that architects showed us, confirmed to us, that in Romania we're not very sustainable. We're not reusing, adaptively or not, the built environment. We are just tearing it down and building new, or just building new, and that's it. And this, as I said, we can take down to basically every city, every village of the country, for every year, for every area, and so on. We also, of course, we have information about architects and how many they are, where they are concentrated, where we have, and we can correlate then. Okay, there are spots where you don't have anything. Nothing was built in that year of that kind of function. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it necessary? Is it not necessary? But are there architects to do it in the first place? Is there the economical power to do it? And so on and so forth. This can substantiate, this can fundament and substantiate public policies for architecture, measures from local or the central government, and so on and so forth. Of course, everybody's much more interested in money, so we talk a lot about that as well. And we can compare also rural and urban environments, because this is also an issue of migration from rural to and so on. But as I said, even if we look at the most spread out type of use, which is individual housing, there are still a lot of areas, the white spots that you see on this map, which are not covered at all. So in that year, in 2021, where you see white spot, there was no individual house built or refurbished or renovated or something that had to do with a building permit. So maybe we have a problem there. And my hope is, and I'm ending with this slide, my hope is that if you and others join in this kind of gathering the data, because it also serves building up arguments for supporting the ambitions of the profession, for the public interest in the end. It's not only for ourselves. We can at some point do it on a wider scale, not only on national scale. And I think this will help a lot to support the way we advocate in Brussels also for the European Commission, and also for our local governments, that things are, in the end, not so different. I mean, construction as a process and all the built environment, generating and maintaining the built environment as a process is pretty much the same all over the world. Physics is the same, building materials are the same, practices are pretty much the same. There are some local nuances that we have to tweak and work with, but all in all, there are not so many differences between the RIBA plan of work, the Hawaii, the HIA from Austria, our scope of services, and so on and so forth. So the overlap is major. We're talking 70 to 90% basically. So I think sharing all this information is very good, and I must, on the one hand, thank you and then also congratulate you for this initiative, because bringing all these practices together, I think, is for very high value, not only for your endeavor but also for us, because we can share it and we'll see where we stand, and that we're not so different in the end. So thank you again, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.